My name is Alexis Markley. I'm 33 years old, and until a few months ago, I thought I was living the kind of steady, ordinary marriage people envy in quiet ways. We had a Rhythm Sunday takeout midweek arguments about the laundry Friday night comfort food. Nothing extraordinary. But maybe that's the problem. Ordinary can feel invisible until it vanishes. It started with a brochure. Stanley had found it online, The Pulse Collective, a weekend for the expanding soul. He said it with a joking grin over breakfast, stirring his coffee. Alexis, they say people come back completely transformed. I laughed. Transformed how? Like taxidermy. He didn't laugh back. That should have been my first clue. The morning he left, he was oddly detached, almost vibrating with excitement. He hugged me quick, no real warmth in it, and said, "I'll see you Sunday night. Don't wait up." I asked him to text me when he landed. He said he would. He didn't. I tried not to overthink it. Stanley was a software designer, logical to the bone. He was just stressed, maybe burned out. But by Sunday, that quiet voice in my head started whispering something darker. At the arrivals gate, I searched the crowd until I saw him, same man, different energy. His eyes looked charged, like he'd swallowed lightning. He wore a linen shirt that didn't look like him at all, loose, cream-colored, unbuttoned too far. He hugged me like I was a polite acquaintance. How was it, I asked. He smiled dreamily. Transformative, Alexis. Just transformative. The drive home was mostly silence, broken by the soft ping of his phone. A group chat lit his screen, the Pulse family. Every few seconds, another ping, another burst of emojis. When we got home, I ordered Thai like always. He waved it off. I'm fasting for cellular clarity. Instead, he spent 2 hours soaking in the tub with Epsom salts and eucalyptus oil, his phone propped on the rim, thumbs flying. I sat alone at the kitchen counter, picking at cold noodles, listening to the sound of bathwater sloshing behind the closed door. Something about the silence felt heavy. Like a presence had moved in with him, something that didn't include me. By Thursday, I tried to reach for normal. I made spaghetti carbonara, his favorite. The smell of garlic and pancetta filled the apartment, and for a second, I let myself believe the scent might bring him back to earth. He walked in, sniffed the air, and frowned. "You know, Alexis," he said, "animal products lower your vibrational frequency." I blinked. "You mean bacon?" He gave a gentle smile that somehow felt cruel. Exactly. That was the last time he looked at me like a person instead of a problem. Friday night, he came home early carrying a bundle of sage. He lit it without asking, the smoke curling through the room, erasing the smell of dinner of us. He gestured for me to sit. His voice was soft, careful. I've realized something fundamental about myself. My stomach dropped. He took a deep breath, eyes shining. I'm polyamorous. The words hung there absurd, what I whispered. It's simple. Love doesn't divide. It multiplies. Kira helped me see that. Kira, the guide from the retreat. He said her name with reverence like it was a holy word. I felt heat crawl up my neck. You met her last weekend, Stanley. He nodded serenely. Exactly. And it was like recognizing my soul in another form. I wanted to laugh or scream. But all I managed was, we've been together 8 years, married for 5. You're saying that means nothing. He gave me a patient smile, the kind you give a child who still believes in fairy tales. Those are just social constructs. We've been asleep in patterns of ownership. Kira says resistance is fear. Resistance, I repeated, incredulous. This isn't about fear, it's about respect. But he was already somewhere else reciting lines that weren't his. If you can't expand with me, you'll hold me back from my highest self. Hold him back. After all the nights I stayed up editing his proposals, the lunches I skipped to help pay off his student loans, I was suddenly the enemy of his enlightenment. The air between us thickened. I couldn't find my voice. He touched my arm, almost pitying. You could come too. Kira's open circles are for everyone. I stared at him, my husband glowing like a convert. No, I said quietly. I think I'll stay right here on Earth. That night, I packed a spare pillow and blanket, walked down the hallway, and closed the door to the guest room behind me. I could hear him still in the living room, humming to some ambient track, whispering affirmations into his phone. The smell of sage seeped under the door. I lay awake, eyes open in the dark, listening to him moving around the house that used to feel like ours. And for the first time since I'd met Stanley Markley, I felt completely alone. The next morning, sunlight crept through the blinds and painted gold lines across the guest room wall. I stared at them for a long time, wondering when my marriage had started to fade between the cracks. Stanley was already gone. His side of the bed in our room looked untouched, like he'd been sleeping elsewhere too. Maybe spiritually he had. When he came home that evening, he looked radiant. That same artificial peace stretched over his face like plastic wrap. He kissed my forehead absently and said, "Kira says we're entering a new vibration phase." I was too tired to ask what that meant. He spent most of the day rearranging the living room. Out went the framed photos, the cozy throw blanket, the record player we'd bought together. In their place, crystals, feathers, and a giant hand-painted sign that read, "Open Hearts, Open Paths." Our apartment, once a warm mess of shared life, now looked like a showroom for a boutique cult. That night he lit another stick of sage, the smoke twisting like ghosts between us. I watched him carefully set the lighter down and fold his hands on his lap. He looked like a man preparing to deliver a sermon. "Alexis," he began softly, "I know this is uncomfortable for you. You're clinging to the old paradigm of love." I exhaled slowly. "Stanley, the old paradigm is called commitment." He smiled in that maddeningly calm way. Commitment doesn't mean possession. It means presence. His tone was so certain it almost sounded rehearsed. Kira says, true love expands without boundaries. There it was again, Kira, the invisible third person living between us. I folded my arms. "You've known this woman for 10 days, and now she's your philosopher." His voice sharpened. "She's opened my mind. You could learn something from her, like how to throw away a marriage." He sighed, exasperated. "See, that's fear talking again. That's your ego resisting evolution." My stomach twisted. He sounded less like my husband and more like a recording. I stood up. "You know what this sounds like, Stanley, a sales pitch?" He tilted his head, pitying. "You always were pragmatic. You crave control, but control kills connection." I stared at him, speechless. "You want to live in a box?" he continued. Voice rising now. "A safe, predictable little box. That's not love, Alexis. That's ownership." It was like watching someone rewrite your history in front of you. Every shared moment, our first apartment, our late-night laughter, the stupid way he used to dance while brushing his teeth, all reduced to evidence of my supposed oppression. I whispered, "You're calling everything we built together a cage." He softened, stepping closer. "I'm saying we could evolve it. We can open the relationship, explore connections together." Together, I repeated, almost laughing. "So what?" "You with Kira and me," clapping supportively from the sidelines. "It doesn't have to be like that," he said quickly. "Kira could guide us. She's very experienced." The implication hit me like ice water. "She's experienced," I said flatly. "With you." He hesitated too long. His silence said everything. The air felt suddenly too thick to breathe. "You met her last weekend," I said, my voice trembling. "You've known her less time than it takes to get a passport renewed. And you're ready to burn down our life for her." Stanley's voice dropped calm and cold. "Don't reduce this to jealousy. This is spiritual alignment. Kira and I share something you can't understand yet." Something inside me snapped. Yet I said quietly, "You mean ever?" He opened his mouth to argue, but I lifted a hand. "I'm not doing this." I turned and walked to the guest room again. My legs felt like stone, but my chest burned. Behind me I heard him whisper, "Kira said this might happen. The ego resists the light at first." I almost laughed. A bitter, humorless sound. In the guest room, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wedding photo I hadn't yet taken down. In it, he looked so young, so open, smiling at me, like I was the whole world. Now he smiled that same way, but towards someone else's voice echoing in his head. I didn't cry that night. Not yet. I just lay there numb and listened to the sound of incense burning. In the other room, smoke was whispering through the house like a stranger's breath. Somewhere in the darkness, I realized the truth. The man I'd loved was still alive, but whatever he'd become had already left me behind. The silence after Stanley moved into the guest energy room, his words not mine, was unbearable. He no longer slept beside me, but his presence lingered everywhere, his toothbrush, his mug, his cologne fading on the pillowcase. I told myself it was temporary. Maybe this was just a phase, an obsession he'd outgrow. But obsession has gravity. It doesn't fade. It pulls. The first week I functioned on autopilot. Work, gym, dinner. Smile when coworkers asked how he was. He's great finding himself. At night, I scrolled through our old photos looking for the moment the light in his eyes changed. It was Mia who broke the illusion. She came over one night with a bottle of red wine and the kind of face people wear before delivering bad news. Alexis. She began carefully. You should know. Stanley posted something online. She turned her phone toward me. There he was, my husband, shirtless, cross-legged, in a circle of women in white linen. The caption read, "The Pulse Collective expands gratitude to Kira for opening our hearts." And there, in the corner of the photo, Kira herself, smiling, hand on his shoulder. I felt the air leave my body. How long ago was this yesterday? The comments below were all the same kind of language he'd been spouting: abundance, alignment, energy union. Each word felt like a knife dipped in honey. Mia reached for my hand. Alexis, he's not in control anymore. This looks like a cult. I nodded, but inside I was still trying to compute how the man who once debated mortgage rates with me was now chanting in a meadow about universal oneness. A few days later, Leo called. He didn't bother with sympathy. Alexis, we checked their site. They're fundraising for something called the Sanctuary Project. Guess who donated $5,000? I froze. 5,000. From where your joint account? The one for your house savings. My pulse thudded in my ears. That account was Sacred Our Future, our anchor. He hadn't even told me. When I logged in, the balance confirmed at $5,000 withdrawn, labeled Donation The Pulse Collective. My hands shook as I stared at the transaction. I felt like someone had stolen not just money, but years. That night, I walked through the apartment like a ghost. The crystals, the incense, the chants, echoing faintly from his laptop, it all felt like I was trespassing in someone else's life. He was at Kira's circle, he said, and wouldn't be home until late. So I sat at the dining table and opened a blank page on my laptop. For months I'd been reacting, crying, arguing, waiting. But that night, something colder and steadier took over. I searched family law constructive abandonment. The next morning I made an appointment with a lawyer. His office was sterile, quiet, almost comforting. He listened as I laid everything out, voice steady, despite the tremor in my hands. My husband has joined a group. They control his finances. I need to protect what's left. He nodded, professional, detached. You can file for dissolution. This qualifies as abandonment. He slid a folder toward me. When you're ready to serve him, sign here. The pen felt heavy in my hand. Signing didn't feel triumphant. It felt like closing a door that had been stuck open too long. Still, when the ink dried, something shifted inside me. The fog lifted. Walking out of that office, the city felt louder, clearer. I wasn't anyone's student wife or spiritual obstacle anymore. Just Alexis Markley, a woman reclaiming the ground beneath her feet. That night, I slept in our Know My bed again. It smelled faintly of sage, but I didn't mind. I opened the window, let the air in, and whispered a quiet promise to myself. You don't need his awakening to wake up. Months passed, and life rearranged itself into a quieter rhythm. I learned to live without Stanley's noise, no more incense smoke creeping under the doors, no more lectures about frequency and alignment. The apartment stopped feeling haunted and started feeling like mine again. I even caught myself humming sometimes while cooking dinner, something I hadn't done since before the Pulse Collective took him. But grief has a strange sense of timing. It doesn't leave when you're ready. It lingers waiting for the smallest reminder. For me, it was a photo. Leo sent it one afternoon, followed by a single message. You should see this. The image was from social media. Stanley standing behind Kira in a group photo. Everyone dressed in cream linen eyes, glassy with devotion. But Stanley didn't look enlightened. He looked thin, pale, exhausted. The caption read, New Beginnings at the Sanctuary Commune. Gratitude for shedding the old self. My throat tightened. The old self. That was me. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept wondering if he realized what he'd given up: the marriage, the laughter, the stability he used to mock as boring. Part of me wanted to drive out there, shake him awake. The other part just pitied him. Mia noticed my silence during our usual Sunday dinner. Still thinking about him, she asked gently. I nodded, tracing the rim of my wine glass. He looks sick, Mia, like he's starving for something that isn't food. She sighed. People like Kira thrive on starving others emotionally, financially, spiritually. She's the sun, and everyone else just burns around her. I smiled faintly. You should have been the one giving those talks. Yeah, she said. but mine wouldn't charge 5 grand a seat. A small laugh escaped me. It felt good, strange, but good. For the first time in months, I realized I was healing not in some cosmic way, just humanly. I went back to yoga, started meeting friends after work, even reactivated my photography page. Normal life rebuilt piece by piece. Then, late one Tuesday, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message read, "Alexis, I think I made a mistake. Can we talk? I miss you." My breath caught. I knew that rhythm, that punctuation. It was him. For a long moment, I just stared at the screen. No anger, no hope, just the echo of something that used to matter. My thumb hovered over the reply button. Then I set the phone down. He'd made his choice. He had chosen her, chosen freedom, chosen to mock everything we built together. Now he wanted to come back to the safety he once called a cage. I didn't block him, but I didn't answer either. Some silences speak louder than words. 2 days later, I got the voicemail. His voice was wrecked horse, trembling, stripped of all that faux serenity. "Alexis, please pick up. It's not what I thought. It's chaos. She's not who she said she was. She has other partners. We pay for everything. I have nothing left. Please, I need to come home." For a long time after the message ended, I just sat there listening to the hum of the refrigerator. The same silence that once felt suffocating now felt clean. He had found the abundant love he wanted, and it had devoured him. And now, like a moth with singed wings, he was trying to fly back to the flame he'd once called too dim. I deleted the voicemail. Then I opened my window, breathed in the cool night air, and whispered softly into the quiet. Freedom looks different when no one's clapping for it. The next morning he called again. Then again. Different numbers each time. I ignored them all. But by the fourth attempt, something in me shifted, not out of longing, but finality. I didn't want him haunting my silence anymore. I wanted to close the chapter properly with my own words. So I texted back a single line, "We can talk. Public place. Tomorrow noon." The park near our old apartment was halfway between what used to be our world and mine. Wide open, uncharged ground. I arrived 10 minutes early. Manila folder clutched in my hand, the divorce papers I'd kept sealed for weeks. The sky was soft gray, the air heavy with the smell of cut grass. He came 5 minutes late, and when I saw him walking toward me, my heart didn't break, it just stilled. The man approaching wasn't my Stanley. His shoulders hunched, his hair unkempt, his eyes rimmed red. He looked smaller, like the world had drained him. "Alexis," he said, breathless. He sat down beside me on the bench, hands trembling. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The silence stretched, filled with everything unsaid. Finally, he whispered, "I'm so sorry." I didn't reply. I wanted him to hear the weight of his own words echo back at him. He rubbed his face the way he used to when he was stressed. It was all a lie. Kira, she wasn't guiding anyone. She was using us. She decides who eats, who sleeps who she spends time with. He swallowed. It's like being owned. A bitter smile flickered at the corner of my mouth. Ironic, isn't it? You left me to escape ownership. He flinched. Tears welled up in his eyes. "Alexis, I was blind. I just wanted something more, something shiny," I interrupted. "Different, easy." He closed his eyes. I thought I was evolving. I leaned back on the bench, my voice calm, steady. "You didn't evolve, Stanley. You dissolved." He reached for my hand. I pulled it away gently. "I want to come home," he pleaded. "I can fix this. I'll sell the crystals. I'll get therapy, whatever you need. I just want our life back." For a brief, painful second, I saw the man I used to know, the one who made me pancakes on Sundays and wrote bad poetry when he was drunk. But the image was just that, a memory, not a promise. I looked him in the eye. "You called our life a cage," I said softly. "You said I was keeping you small. Remember?" He nodded, shame written across his face. I reached into my bag and took out the manila folder. "You were right, Stanley," I said quietly. "I am small. I'm small enough to fit into one relationship. Small enough to believe in vows. Small enough to think love means showing up when it's hard." His lips parted. "Alexis, please," I placed the folder on the bench between us. "I choose my smallness, my boundaries, my peace." He stared at the document as if it were something poisonous. When he opened it, his breath hitched. The words, "Petition for dissolution of marriage," gleamed at the top. He looked up, eyes wet, voice cracking. "No, please, don't do this." I stood up. "Stanley, I already did this months ago. This is just your copy." For a heartbeat, he didn't move. Then the paper slipped from his hands and fluttered to the ground like a dead leaf. I didn't reach for it. I didn't reach for him. The air between us was clear now. No smoke, no chance, no illusions. Just the quiet truth of what we'd become. Two people who once promised forever, now strangers linked only by what they'd survived. He whispered, "Alexis, I don't know how to live without you." I looked at him, really looked at him, and felt nothing but a deep, calm mercy. "You'll figure it out," I said. "You were always good at finding new paths." And with that, I turned and walked away. No dramatic music, no cinematic glance back. Just the sound of my footsteps on gravel growing fainter with each step. The sunlight broke through the clouds warm against my face. The air smelled like rain and cut grass, simple, ordinary, beautiful. I realized then that peace doesn't come from freedom or chaos. It comes from finally choosing yourself. It's been 6 months since that day in the park. 6 months since I watched Stanley crumble into the man he became. And 6 months since I finally walked away without looking back. You'd think endings would echo, but sometimes they just fade. Now when I wake up, the first thing I hear is the soft hum of the city outside my window. No chants, no affirmations. Just life, mundane, beautiful life. I've redecorated the apartment. The sage stains are gone. The crystals are gone. Even the heavy velvet curtains, he said, blocked energy are gone. The place feels open again, light, imperfect, real. Every Sunday, I make spaghetti carbonara. It's no longer a shared ritual, but mine. I still use too much garlic, and sometimes I burn the pancetta, but it fills the space with a warmth I once thought I'd lost forever. When the scent fills the kitchen, I remember who I am, someone who finds comfort in ordinary things, not cosmic promises. Mia teases me about how peaceful I've become. "You're practically a monk now," she said last week as we sat on my balcony with cheap wine. I laughed. "No, just someone who's finally bored in the best possible way." She grinned. "You always did say you wanted stability." Turns out, I replied, stability was the revolution. Sometimes I still think about Stanley not with anger, but with a kind of detached compassion. He sends the occasional email short and hesitant. "I've started therapy. I'm sorry for everything." I never reply. Some things don't need closure twice. One night I stumbled across a photo online. Someone had tagged Kira's name. The Pulse Collective was disbanded. Apparently the authorities got involved. Fraud. Emotional manipulation. A handful of her followers were trying to rebuild their lives. Stanley's name wasn't mentioned, but I didn't need confirmation. He had found his lesson just as I had found mine. I no longer hate what happened. I wouldn't relive it, but I also wouldn't erase it. That kind of pain changes you, but sometimes it chisels you into something stronger. Last week I went to the park again, the same bench where I gave him the papers. The air was soft and full of children's laughter. I sat there quietly tracing the grain of the wood, and for the first time I felt no ghost beside me. Just gratitude. Because peace doesn't announce itself with trumpets. It comes like morning light, slow, steady, filling the corners you thought would stay dark forever. As I got up to leave, a breeze lifted the edge of my scarf. Somewhere someone was playing guitar, a soft, imperfect melody drifting through the trees. And I thought this is what freedom actually sounds like. Not chaos, not rebellion, just calm. Some prisons are made of chaos. Some freedoms are carved from boundaries. And for the